Says Halacha Yomi, we're up to page 40. Melacha number 16, Melacha Toveh, spinning. So once the wool was combed, was washed, and was colored, it had to be twisted into thread. So in the Mishkan, there were three colors. There was Techelet Argaman Tolat Shani, sky blue, red, and purple. So therefore, they were spun together with a fourth linen to make a thick thread. And the amount they needed to spin was 4 tefachim long minimum. So now what? So therefore, anybody who spins thread today on Shabbat is doing the same melacha. But this is weavers' jobs. We don't really have this so much today, and a lot of it is machinery today. So one, toveh can be accomplished by hand by twining fibers together with one's finger, a spindle, or a spinning wheel. Number two, according to some Rishonim, even compressing fibers into felt or cloth is considered toveh. So let's say the pool table, it's like that felt covering. Right? What is it? It's not spun. It's fibers smashed together to make that soft feeling. So if you create that on Shabbat, that'll be a problem of spinning as well. Toveh. 3. Some poskim say that if you make wick out of cotton, it's a violation of Melacha Toveh. So you have a ball of cotton, you take a little piece and you spin it into a wick. That also will be Melacha Toveh. Okay. Now these next few melachot, you have to bear with me, is related to the weaving process. But then we're going to get to Kosher Matir. Kosher tying is where applies again for us. Okay, so let's just speak it out outside. So Melacha number 17 is warping. Melechet Masiach. As cloth is made from threads that run lengthwise called a warp and run widthwise weft. Right. So how do you make clothes? You take strings, fabric, strings that are spun together. You have some running this way, and you have some running this way. And these that go this way, they have to run up and under through each fabric. So if you do that multiple times, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, you get eventually a strong fabric together and make a cloth. So the concept of Masiach is aligning and setting up the warp threads tightly in place. So now when you set these tight, it's easy for it to go over and under. Just setting this up is the Melacha of Masiach, is Mesach, I'm sorry.
Masiach is also a Shtiva.
Yes or no? So Mesach, I'm sorry, not Masiach. Mesach is warping, is just setting it up. Just setting up, not going over and under. Just setting up tight so it's easier now to go over and under. Okay, fine. Good. Then you have the next Melacha, Oseh Shte Batei Nirin. Okay, so now in order to go through these fabrics, it's hard to tuck it in, tuck it out every single time. So what do? Is every odd fabric, they lift. Okay, when we lift, you just have to go, and if you go and you put these two fingers up, you could just go straight through. And then you let go, and then it'll be automatically on top of each other, in and out. So therefore, you have to take the odd strings and put them through these rings. Shte Batei Nirin, 2 strings, and this apparatus lifts them. It lifts these 2 fabrics, and then you can go and put the weft through, and then you release them and it goes back down. So when you set up those strings through those rings, that's called Oseh Shte Batei Nirin, constructing 2 heddles. Okay, fine. That's number 18. Number 19 is oreg. Oreg is weaving, the actual act of weaving, right? It's combining the making it go through and out, in and out, in order to make the cloth. That's a melacha of weaving. Number 1, application of oreg is when braiding the hairs of a wig. Number 2, another application if a garment becomes snagged and ruffles up, one is not allowed to pull it and stretch it in order to smooth it out. That would be considered oreg. Let's say sometimes a string gets caught on something and it goes up. And if you pull this down, it'll flatten out. So that would be a problem of oreg. Then we have Melacha number 20, which is potzea, which is unraveling threads, right? So according to Rambam, after removing the completed cloth from the machine, from the loom, so now what are you going to do with the loose ends? So the loose ends, you got to reweave them back in, and you got to tuck it back in at the end so it doesn't get unraveled. So that'll be Melacha potzea. And then, or some people used to cut it at the end, and to tie it off at the end, whatever it is, to finish off the hem, to finish off the end of the fabric will be potzea. Okay. Good. Now Melacha Kosher. This is what we needed. Melacha Kosher. We're up to Melacha 21 and 22. Kosher has the opposite of Matir. Kosher is tying, and Matir is untying. So So they're the opposites of each other. In order, page 45. In order to prepare a thread for stitching, the ends of the thread must be tied into a knot after it's threaded through the needle. Similarly, the ends of the stitches in a seam must be tied in knots to keep the stitches from unraveling. These are classic examples of kosher. Kosher was needed in the Mishkan to make nets to trap the chilazon. The chilazon is many want to say today it's a Murus trunculus. It's a sea snail that they used to draw its blood, which to make the chelet. So they needed to make tie nets to catch the chilazon, and they also used to tie each section of the cloth in order to make the curtains of the Mishkan. Okay, so sometimes when they made the nets for the chilazon, they had to untie it and replace some of the string. Some of the string got broke on the net, so you have to fix it. So you have to untie and tie. So therefore, the rule is that any knot that you're not allowed to tie, so then you're not allowed to untie it because melachet matir. Okay.
So then if I like the thread and I can hold it with one hand, like I do it in a way where it's not tied, it's tied, but it's with a little tip, hold the tip and it comes out.
A slip knot.
A slip knot, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna see that's not considered a knot. Okay, good. So, page 46. Number 1, there are essentially 3 different types of knots, depending on the quality and how long it stands for, how long it lasts. Number 1, A, tying a knot that is meant to be permanent and is maseh uman is biblically forbidden. Okay, what's maseh uman? Professionally made knot. Back in the Mishnah of Masechet Shabbat says the camel driver's knot and the sailor's knot, right? The boat, the ones who rides the boat, ties the boats to the dock. So over there, those are professional knots. Do we know what exactly those knots are? Not exactly. So if we're going to see that we're going to be mahmir, any sort of complicated knot, we're already going to consider it a professional knot. We're going to see a double knot is a classic case. Okay, B, tying a knot that's meant to be permanent forever, but it's not maseh uman. It's not a professional knot, so it's asur midrabanan. And C, tying a knot that's not maseh uman and is not permanent is permitted made on Shabbat. So let's say we're going to see what permanent means, not permanent. But let's say for one day, you're only going to do it for today, this knot, and it's not a professional knot. It's 100% permitted to tie such a knot on Shabbat. Number 2, any knot that is usually tied and not ever untied, such as knot on tzitzit, may not tied on Shabbat. A lot of times people, they play with their tzitzit on Shabbat, they see that it's a little bit loose, so they want to tighten it. It's a sur, it's a mitzvah ba'abera. You're trying to fix your tzitzit, but you're doing a sin of Shabbat. 3, any knot which is usually untied within 7 days is considered not a permanent knot. So non-permanent means open it within 7 days. Number 4, as long as
shoelaces?
What?
Like shoelaces?
Yeah, let's say a guy undoes his shoelaces every day after they finishes wearing them. Yeah. Okay. 4, as long as one has intention to untie the knot, that's not a professional knot, before 7 days, you're allowed to tie the knot, even though practically you might be that you'll forget. That's fine. There's some people who do their shoelaces one time and that's it, and they use it as a slip-on and off shoe. And then when it gets untied the next time, they'll tie it again. So that might be a problem with Shabbat because they're going to tie it for who knows how long, more than a week probably, when they tie it on Shabbat. That's a problem. Okay, number 5. If one forgot to tie his arba minim before Yom Tov, and they accidentally became untied on Yom Tov, you may not retie them with a double knot on Yom Tov. Instead, you have to make a bow and not a knot to keep them together. So we're going to see you have to make a slip knot, like you said. What?
Can a person tie his tie?
Yes, we're going to learn that a person can tie his tie. Okay. Good. 6. The proper definition of Maaseh Uman is unclear, since the Gemara and Shulchan Aruch talk about specific knots, like a camel driver or a sailor's knot, and these knots are not precisely known. Therefore, one should be strict, and any knot that is tied in a manner that is firm and remains permanently tight may not be tied on Shabbat. 7. Some poskim say a knot on top of a knot is known as a double knot is Maaseh Uman, and therefore should be at least rabbinically forbidden to tie, even if you're not going to do it for a long time. For example, right? Others argue that one may tie a double knot if his intention is to untie it within 7 days, but you should be strict and you shouldn't do this. Accordingly, one may tie his shoes with a double knot on Shabbat, according to the letter of the law, but it's better to be stringent and tie a knot with a bow on top. So let's say you take your shoelaces, you go over under, and you go over under again, and then you make it tight. That'll be a double knot. But what do we do? What do we do today? We do over under, and then we do a slip knot. That's okay, because it's a bow. Similarly, it's permitted for a woman to tie a head covering onto her head, even if she uses a double knot, provided that she does not intend to leave it that way. Here, ladies, they do mitpacha, they tie over under, and then they do over under again, and they pull it tight. So how is that allowed? Oh, because they're not doing it to leave it that way. They have what to rely on. Okay, we'll end with this. Garbage bags on Shabbat. A lot of people, they tie the bag double knot after they finish to throw it out. So even though you're allowed to throw it out the muktzah because it bothers you, right? You're allowed to throw it outside. But make sure not to tie a double knot, because whoever ties double knot, and they meant to leave it like that forever. So a double knot, it could be Maseh Uman. Plus, they want to leave it like that forever, maybe even Doraita. But you're breaking Shabbat. But many want to claim, oh, it's going to get destroyed, it's going to get opened, the garbage trucks are going to destroy it. Okay, who knows if it does get destroyed. It's already safek, but at the end of the day, person should not do it initially. Baruch Adonai Olam, amen, amen.